We'll start here.
It's awful close here.
Before we do get started, is the hoot owl on?
Yes.
Okay, the owl's on, so we're recording everybody's conversation. What are we doing?
Oh, look at your agenda.
Splits. Agenda splits.
We've already approved it, correct?
You,
Our setbacks, is that what the meeting was called for? I thought we'd already.
well, I think we need to make it final.
Can
Because,
I address the group here?
You wanna do it on the minutes, or you wanna do it after I call it to order?
Go ahead and call it to order.
Okay, let me go through the procedure then. It is 6:00. Today is August 13th, 2025. I hereby call the Scott County Advisory Board to order. Let's run through, start with Randy, our attendance. Introduce yourself if you would.
Randy Julian,
Mark Gardner.
Matt Oberlease, Andrew Boswell,
Tom Springston.
Jonathan White. John Hauser.
Gary Green.
Missy Sadler.
Carligan.
Okay. We have 8 members attended. We have 8 members appointed. Still waiting on the 9th one. I do have a copy of some minutes. I already made some notes on this, so I apologize. It's dated July 14th, 2025, meeting with the APC board to vote on ordinance changes. It has the members that were in attendance. It mentions that Mr. Springston was not present. The detail is the ordinance for acreage, road frontage, and setbacks were discussed. It changed from 2 acres to 1 acre, from 200-foot road frontage to 100 feet, setbacks from 30 feet to 10 feet on sides, keep 30 feet in the back and 55 feet from the road. And there was a discussion of splits. I'm gonna pass this around, or do you wanna wait till we get a hard copy via email and approve it next meeting? What do you think, Mark?
I don't see what difference it makes, Gary. Whatever.
Just pass it and let everybody see it.
Okay, I'll come back to that in a second.
Now, does that, again, I wasn't here, I would be there that evening, but, so this is just from this board discussing and haven't went to the commissioners or haven't made any
What,
public postings or?
that's where you hit the nail on the head for me,
Mhm.
because I'm confused. Because the last meeting, we walked out of here where it was 8-0 in favor of us changing it.
7, Tom wasn't here.
Tom
Yeah.
wasn't here, yeah.
Yeah. For us changing it from 2 acres to 1 acre, 200 foot to 100 foot, and to make an adjustment with the splits. We all took that separately and voted in favor of it, with the idea that Carla would clean it up and send it off to the commissioners. I don't know what happened. I'm kind of sitting here thinking, we've already done what we normally do, which is approve this.
Right, and then we went to the commissioners
We went to the
meeting,
Yes.
because they're the ones who actually make the change.
Right.
We make the
And they have to
recommendation.
have it, and they have to
And they're
have
gonna
it.
have to have, and I do believe that it needs to be like an advertised, so they obviously considered it, they're going to advertise, I feel like they're gonna have it at your first September meeting.
Yeah.
To kind of vote on that, we might piggyback on that, because there was a little confusion on the splits, but I can just add that on there, or we may, the meeting next, maybe I can just do that and come to the meeting
Yes,
next week.
and we just have to open it up for public.
But they have got to, to kind of do, so the public can come in and comment on it, which I believe they're going to, because I think there was people there, just saw it on the agenda, and people were there
That's
on that, so.
And that's my point. I guess that's my concern, is being sure the public has some comment on it. Because I know sometimes
Yeah.
we have a very in-depth meeting here, but it doesn't seem to blossom to where I remember us having when we adopted some of these things, which is,
Right, and we don't need to have the public meeting yet. We are making the recommendations, that we are passing it off to the commissioners will make the final decision. And they can also make changes to what we did and don't have to send it back to us since we're not an area plan, we're just an advisory. So we'll take our recommendations, that's just us figuring it out. We don't need the public to come in, the public will be able to come to the commissioners and have their say.
okay. John, let's recognize you and we'll just,
That's what I was gonna address. When I seen the agenda for tonight, I'm like, this is something we voted on last month. Why are we redoing this? And I know it didn't get to them, and that's what I was wondering.
Yeah,
Why
there's just
did
a confusion on that, so so we can clear that up on that, we're gonna agree to the splits. I think there was some confusion on these easements and stuff, and I don't think we even need to go there. There's no exceptions to having the 100 feet of road frontage. So there's not gonna be any interior, I mean, you might make a modification of BZA to say it may be less than that. We're never gonna say you can't have no road frontage.
Right.
So it doesn't matter, we don't need to worry about easements and all that, unless they wanna go in and get a subdivision. then they need to-
Well, we might need to look at it. Mark brought it up. I'm not sure we don't need to have some kind of guideline on that. The BZA can always make an exception for, I've served on the BZA for about 9 years now. You can think of all these things that this will cover everything, and then someone comes in and their situation is unique. It doesn't fit any of the categories. That's what the BZA is for. And I'm not sure, Mark brought it up last meeting, that we need to address somehow the easement issue. I don't know what that is yet. I didn't have any time this month to do any real research on it like I did these others, but maybe we need to and have something in there in the future. That's up to this board to decide if they want to tackle that or not. But I'm not sure, it's not a good idea to have some kind of framework. But then if something doesn't fit the criteria, then they can come to BZA and explain themselves. We can look at it and say, that makes sense. You know, if we can grant that, or we can say, no, that's not gonna fit, it's not gonna work. I think we ought to go deeper into what Mark said. That's,
just as a point of clarification, when we did the last meeting, we did the change in the lot size and the road frontage and the building locations, setbacks, those kind of things,
yes.
as one item, which we voted
Correct.
on,
In the permeable area, right?
right?
Yes.
And then the second item was the number of splits over a period of what essentially was now a lifetime. And we approved those. So, I guess my question is, we moved forward, and it's on those, minutes, to do the 1 acre, with the 100 foot of road frontage. We reconfigured a little bit, especially the side setbacks with our lots. The front setback, if I'm correct, it remained the same as did the back setback, is that correct?
No, it was 55 feet from the center of the road in front, and I think we started.
30 off the back, right?
Yeah. And then,
10 foot on the side.
10 foot on the sides.
okay. But I guess my question is, do we need I don't know if that's what we did. Do we need to do anything else now?
The only thing I want to do is clarify, you're able to split 3 times to 4 parcels every year, every 2 years? I don't remember exactly what we decided on that.
I didn't have that in my notes.
The other people stop me wrong. What I thought we were thinking about going to was any parcel over 5 acres, you could split it. If you're without asking anyone, you're allowed to do one per calendar year under the 5 acres.
Okay,
And anybody that wants anything more than that has to come before the board and either ask for a minor subdivision, or that. That's the way I understood what we voted on that night. Does anybody remember it being any different or
That's the way I remember.
Rings familiar.
Go through that again, John. What did we say?
any parcel over 5 acres does not require any zoning. You can split.
In ours.
right, if you're gonna got
You-
4 or 20 acres and you're gonna split it into 5 acres, you don't need to, oh, yeah.
You can do that. If you had 100 acres and you want to split it into 5 or 10 or 15 acre plots, you could do that without asking for a subdivision. Anything under the 5 acres, you could only do one per calendar year. And that was just basically adopting Clark County's rules. That's what they've been
That's what
doing.
Andrew has a copy of it here. That's basically how it's reading.
I thought basically, didn't we vote to adopt this because they had some exceptions?
We
for
changed,
the unified, we were gonna change
yes,
the wording.
we
on that.
changed, you
Right.
should have a piece of paper that says
Yes.
that because we marked out a couple words in there
To fit our descriptions. Yeah.
that did not quite fit our thing.
Right.
And I think Carla took the master copy of that. Do you have that? Okay. I thought that's what we voted
Yeah, it's
on.
on there.
It's okay.
But yeah, so I just want to make sure that now, with them, everyone understanding though, that you could divide it up like that, but you cannot build on anything unless it's got road frontage. So
Correct.
you could divide it up into 5 acres in the middle of your field, but no, you can't build on it.
Correct.
So,
And I think that's a point when we discussed
I
this
think
last.
I think it actually
That covers it.
specifies in there that does not guarantee that's a buildable
Right.
site that you do.
well, that's what I'm saying. There should never be a reason for an easement needed because you're gonna have road frontage. You're gonna have 100 feet of road frontage, so
No.
everything can get to it.
No, not the way I see it. This isn't just about building houses. This is about just splitting off property that,
All right, well, the owner will have to do that. Like I said, if they want to get to this, if they sell off a whatever to them, they're gonna have to say, and I'm retaining an easement here.
yes, that's where Mark was talking about. If you're going to split property this way, we have to think about what we're gonna allow on easements and come up with a sensible guideline to make that right. I think in some of it briefly, and maybe we have it already, maybe only 2 homes can be built off of an easement now.
Presently, that's what the ordinance is.
Okay. And maybe that's fine the way it is. But maybe we need to look at that. That's,
Okay,
I'd like some collective brains
Yeah, I
to
was gonna say, I don't, because I'm.
think about the scenarios that come from that.
So let me sum back up and then let me kick this around. So our conversation today is not so much voting, rehashing the 1 acres, all that. Just kind
No.
of taking what we did last time, which we're all cognizant of it. Then maybe taking that and splitting that hair a little finer in preparation for us in the future. That way, when questions arise, you can kind of articulate to the commissioners and whatever that, what we kind of got, our thought processes are. You guys could come back to us saying, hey, this is what the community wants. I've seen some social media, kind of out there that, if you follow that, I think it's a little bit erroneous or misguided to some extent. What our thoughts are, it's 2025. And I see this as needed because this is where we're at now. You know, our initial, zoning ordinance is about 30 years, 25, 30 years old now. And, you know, initially, we had people that wanted to give their son a piece of property on their farm. So they split it, deeded it, did this, did that, did an easement. And we just want to be sure that those easements are correct, number one. And articulated, the second part is, you know, people, they might want to split more over a lifetime of a parent piece of property than what Mark calls for. So, Mark, I interrupted you, so why don't you kick in there a little bit better than what I just did?
I just had reason to see what Jackson County's ordinance is, and they asked for 1 acre with 150 feet of frontage. And they frown on easements, and they didn't elaborate. The person I talked to didn't elaborate why they frowned on easements. He just said that they don't like easements. Okay, well, I know from personal experience, there are lots of developable properties that don't have any road frontage. The road frontage has been sold off, or for some reason or another, there's developable tracts of land without road frontage, and I don't know how you keep the value of those things and take advantage of the value of those things without a way to get to them. And I don't see that's what that's going to be outside an easement. I think I had my eyes opened a little bit, and I voted on the 100 by 1 acre. I think I may have been hasty when I voted for that. I think had I considered it, or had I had the experience last month that I've had in the last month, I would have at least brought up 150 feet of frontage by 1 acre. Couple reasons. Aesthetically speaking, that makes a 150 by 300 feet is 45,000 square feet, which is just that much more than an acre. So 150 by 300 is a 1 to 2 depth to width ratio. Presently, we're at a 1 to 4 depth ratio. I don't know what that means unless you start thinking about putting an easement through that 100-foot piece. I think it's, I don't think you have to think very hard to think that it would be better served to put an easement through a piece of property that was 150 feet wide than 100 feet wide. And again, I'm just thinking out loud. I don't have any good answers and I don't have any conclusions. I just have made some observations.
Okay. I was trying to clarify, so, but you can't develop, no one can build on it unless they have road frontage. You
Well,
can do that if you ask for a subdivision.
in Jackson County, yes, I think that's right.
I mean, I was saying, that's what I'm afraid of, is that if we don't say you need road frontage, exactly what happened before, what caused the split thing is gonna happen, because people just do their easement, throw some gravel down there, this is my road, I don't have to have road frontage, and they're gonna have just all these houses and get away from doing a subdivision.
Well, I don't see that there's a problem as long, I think where we came to this is people who lived outside the county put 10 6-foot easements together, and the people that bought it thought they had a 60-foot road. And then when the school bus couldn't get back there and they called the commissioner and said, hey, you got to work on our road, they learned that wasn't a road.
Right, exactly, that's what I'm afraid of, is that
So
so turn
if-
around and get into, I think you gotta stick with it, you have to have your road frontage. You can come in
Well,
and ask for a little bit
I
less or
think
something.
as long
but-
as you make sure that the people that are buying it know that they're not buying road frontage, that any access to their property from the traveled way is their responsibility, I think that shines a whole new light on it. The people that we're talking about that were, I won't say they were duped, I'll just say that they thought they were getting access to a county road, and what they got was a shared driveway. And if we make sure setting out that's not a county road, that's an easement, that's a driveway, if you share that with somebody else, then you have dual ownership Other than that, it's up to you to make sure that driveway is clear and has,
Yeah,
Some rock
I don't
on
know if the person that's burdened by it has, I think the person who gives the easement is the person who takes care of the easement.
no, there's,
So is
there's what's called a servient
Oh,
estate
is there, yeah,
and a
I can
dominant
answer,
estate.
yeah,
And the dominant estate is the person who gets to use the easement that someone else owns. And the servient estate is the person who owns the property that someone else gets to
Right.
use. So you grant someone an easement, the only thing you have to do is keep that open. You can't put a gate
right, you
against it
can't,
or
you
fence
can't
it,
interfere with the, yeah,
but you don't have to blacktop it or put stone on it or mow it or
Right.
anything like that. And I think, I can't imagine that someone would buy a piece of property not understanding that they didn't have road frontage and it was their responsibility to make sure that they could get back and forth to the county road.
oh, right, and that's who's probably, that'd be a fight, the one who takes care of it, when they don't understand that.
Yeah,
that's
so
roughly-
if there's an easement, then they have access, and if they let it go to pieces and they have to have a tractor to get through it, then that's the problem of the person who uses the easement, not the person who granted the easement. So like I said,
Well, yeah, the owner's granting the
Do we
easement
want-
so they can get to their, yeah,
I'm just thinking out loud here amongst the group. Do we want to pass on to the board? And I'm like you, didn't think about the easement situation on that 100 feet. Do we want to make sure that they have to have road frontage 100 foot free of easements to be able to just buy one?
it seems to me that would be a solution. But do you make things too hard for somebody? Do you just say, have to have 150 feet and pick a number for a road, for an easement? We currently say 50 feet. We're probably the most stringent that I can think of outside of Jackson County, who apparently doesn't want easements at all. And I'm sure there's a reason for that. I just don't understand it.
I think 30 is a pretty good size easement. I don't know what you all think.
The people who I deal with say, how wide should my easement be? And my standard answer is, well, what do you want to get down that easement? And I used to use an example that you can't put a 40-foot combine head down a 30-foot easement, but then somebody said, yeah, but those things don't come in that way. They come in on a trailer that's 12 feet wide.
right, yeah.
So
Well, I mean, county road's 20 foot. A lot
20
of
foot
county
of what?
roads are only 20 foot wide.
yes, that may be, the pavement width, right? And that's referred to generally as the traveled way, what they use. The right of way is usually 30, 33, 40 feet wide, or even more.
May have to have some utilities.
Yeah, and yeah. Yeah, you may have to have utilities that the utility doesn't want under the gravel or whatever. I don't know, like I said, I don't have an answer, I'm just,
Yeah, I'm trying to figure, so you're wanting to like mandate that there's an easement? If somebody buys a piece of property, they're gonna say that whoever they're buying, the owner has to say, well, 30 foot of this is gonna be,
No,
no,
He's
I
not
don't think you can mandate that anyone.
right, so that's what I'm saying though, it was,
I think you have the option that if you, okay, well, I picked something out that I knew about to talk to this guy in Jackson County about.
Yeah.
And they had 400 feet of frontage, and in the back, they had 4 acres, they had 200 feet wide, 200 feet wide, enough to make 2 acres, enough to make 2 acres. And then in the back, they had a 660-foot square, which is 8 acres. So you get a building permit for this 200 feet and a building permit for this 200 feet, and you got 8 perfectly usable acres back there that you could develop, that the county could get revenue from, tax revenue from houses, but you can't get to it. And I posed the question to the guy, how do you get to it? And he said, well, to try to stay out of the weeds.
yeah,
He said, we could consider that a minor subdivision. Now,
right,
if you don't build a road and you don't have an easement, how's it a minor subdivision? But
Because those are just a little bit
I feel a
different,
little
but-
intimidated when I talk to this guy,
Right,
because I feel like he knows
exactly,
a lot more than I do,
The
so.
reason I'm sure he's saying easements, because the encumbrances on property are not, they're kind of frowned upon, and easements are considered kind of encumbrances on property, so, but that's what I'm saying, is that the seller has to grant the easement, the buyer doesn't. I mean, they could, but I mean, the seller, if you sell a piece of property and you're saying, I want to be able to develop this later, so I'm gonna do a 30-foot easement so I can put a driveway on here. They have to agree to that,
Yeah.
that 30 feet of your 1 acre plot, unless we're gonna add it in here, is not completely yours. I get to use
You
it.
can't build on it, you can't encumber it, you can't,
Right. So
Can't
then it
make it
comes
not
on with right, that's what I'm saying, like, because the guy now, and may somebody say, well, never mind that, I don't want a driveway down here, if somebody's gonna be building behind me. That's why I think with the price
Well-
neighbors, people are discouraged if they're like, I'm gonna have a neighbor behind me, is that what you're saying? I have a possibility of someone building behind me?
of course,
Yeah.
but that's when it comes to dollars and cents.
Yeah.
People living behind you makes a big
Right.
difference if you're
In that
gonna,
case, then, are you gonna come in and say you don't need road frontage to build on that, behind that person?
well, currently, the ordinance currently says that you need 200 feet of frontage and 2 acres, or a 50-foot easement to a county road,
Okay,
city
so you're
street,
saying
whatever.
this, okay,
So, and that, I've never seen a problem with that.
right,
Like I said, 50 feet is the most stringent that I'm aware of, and I don't know that you need 50 feet, but then again, maybe there is the side of the coin that says it's better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it.
right, that's true.
Let me
So-
ask you another question, Mark, just kind of pick your brain. And this is gonna be my naivete. Is a driveway that fits our description 100 foot? Is that an easement? Driveway goes to my house. I continue it past my garage to go down a lane, let's say, down to some property I'm selling. I've got my 100 foot, but when it goes past my garage, I've cut 50 of that 100 foot out as an easement. So when I back up to the road, do I still have a 100 foot driveway?
You have 100 foot of 100 feet of frontage, but you've dedicated, if we're using 50 feet, 50 feet to the use of someone else. So now your 100 feet width of property is really reduced to 50.
And so is your permeable, runoff. Right.
Probably, unless you use some kind of late model sophisticated sanitary system that I'm not,
About 100 feet free of easements.
well, but then along that same line, John, do you just determine ahead of time what the easement will be? And so instead of 100 feet plus a 10-foot easement with this guy and 100 feet plus a 30-foot easement for this guy, everybody just gets 150 feet, and you can give them any kind of easement you want as long as it's at least 30 feet. And there again, I'm not purporting to know anything. I'm just making observations and
Well, if you take 10 acres along the road, you're going to require everybody to be 150 feet wide because you need one easement going to the field in the back. That's the problem I have with it. If you have 100, if this guy owns 10 acres out here on the road and 100 acres in behind him and he wants to develop all that, he can sell that acre off with 100 foot free of easement, this and 100 foot free of easement, this and 100 foot free of easement, and he knows he's going to develop this back here, he better keep that other 100 foot lot to himself, sometimes you.
Or get an easement, or he's gonna say,
Or
I'll
draw
sell
it
you
up.
this property, but I'm retaining
Okay,
a
I'm gonna
50-foot
sell,
easement.
your piece is gonna be 150 foot wide, but there's gonna be a 50-foot easement across one end of it. Or 30 foot or whatever that would
Well,
be.
or, I'm gonna sell you an acre, you an acre, you an acre, you're gonna have 150 feet of road frontage. You're gonna have 150 foot of road frontage, and there's gonna be a spot in there. Or
And-
125 feet, whatever. You see what I'm saying? You just gotta, whoever's selling the property, you're gonna have to
Right.
allow for an easement. Not, maybe not everybody gets an acre, maybe they get acre and a quarter.
But there is an easement across their property and they know that when they buy it.
Yes.
Well,
You know, but it's not the same thing, that's almost like we're mandating it then.
Well,
That's the seller has to,
No,
Encumbered.
nobody's gonna make you buy anything you don't wanna
No,
buy. If
I
you don't
mean,
like it,
the seller.
right. So,
So we're gonna say
Same
the seller has to get an easement.
well, if the seller wants to sell more property behind what he's selling that has road frontage, then he's gonna have to make accommodations for an easement. If the person doesn't want to look at somebody's back door or doesn't want to drive past somebody's driveway, don't buy the property.
Yeah.
The shoes don't
Well,
fit,
right.
don't
Well,
buy it.
that's what I'm saying, is that would, but they would be able to do that, that's what I'm saying, they're gonna be able to technically make a subdivision over the course of years without having to come before this board.
well, I think we need to, while we're changing all these rules and making these rules, the 50-foot easement or whatever back, if we make it where it's 1 acre, has to have 100 foot of road frontage. And somebody wants to develop that ground back there in the back, they need to build that road on that easement back to that ground before they split that into subdivision.
Or state the easement before they do on paper.
Uh,
This is the easement, but that would have to make them make 1 or 2 lots larger than the 100.
Right. That's
But
what I'm saying.
if you make it the developer's responsibility to make that road back onto that property, you've solved a lot of these problems.
Yeah, but then there we go, then the county is, you've just told the county, guess what, you have a new road?
No,
Give me a
it's not,
name.
it's not.
Sorry,
about the
meaning that
road,
they're
it's an
gonna make,
easement.
take care of it, so I'm just saying.
No, it'd be an easement built up to county standards or whatever though.
If,
Right, but is it gonna be, when you say road, or is it gonna be considered a driveway?
basically, that's what an easement would be, is a driveway. It's just like a
Yeah.
farm field where a farmer gets back somewhere to farm a field. Somebody has to take care of that. But
Right.
it's normally the property owner or the person leasing the property.
And
That's
if,
what I was gonna say, and then somebody,
But-
I think that, I'm guessing the thing, isn't that the problem, is the people, then these roads, driveways, what are falling apart, and they're calling the county saying you need to fix this, and saying, not us.
Those were,
We don't need
those
no
were
system.
minor subdivisions built off of it where they were stacking easements to beat the 200 foot
before we
rule
knew any better.
before we knew any better.
Right,
With this, when we say you can only have 2 off of it, and if you want it to be an easement, you could do 2. If you want to do more, I think it's already in the ordinance. If you want to do more, you have to ask for a minor subdivision and you have to build that road to county spec. And then they don't mind to take care of it after that.
Go ahead, and let me just like, while we're on that subject, and you brought that up, I would like it to personally, to be, you're gonna build that road before you build the first house.
Yep.
Because too many
Yes.
times they come in there, they don't do it, and we're left with
But
what?
that's for a minor subdivision.
Yeah.
On an easement, there's no.
It's the responsibility of the person who
Responsibility.
uses the easement. You
Yes.
wanna drive through mud, drive through mud. You want a
Right,
concrete
I'm
driveway?
talking about subdivisions.
Okay, well, I thought
But I think her
Yeah,
problem
that
is cured already if we don't mess with the minor subdivision rule. And if someone has, my thing is, we want to use, rather than go out here and buy all this road frontage up by the developers and peel off the 200 feet, 2 acres, we're wanting to use different land than that to build the houses in this growth. Just like Mark says, there may be 7 acres sitting back here that would be beautiful to build houses on. But it's got very little road frontage. But say someone says, yep, if I'll put an easement back to it and sell 2 lots off of it and build 2 nice houses back there. I think people would want that in this county. But right now, it's very hard for them to do. So they're going out here and buying the picturesque farms and splitting them up. I think we need to use some of this other ground and make it accessible for people to do that. My opinion.
Well, right now, we're set up to where you can't split your property more than 3 times, which we're gonna change that. So why couldn't we change it to the point where we was just saying, you can sell your property off in 1 acre lots,
Yes,
but if there's an easement, you cannot landlock
yes.
the property. And any easement has to have at least 1.5 acres. If you're going, you cannot landlock the property behind you. But if you're gonna, in order to do that, you have to, if you're gonna run an easement through someplace, that property there has to have an acre and a half. That gives room for the easement, that gets us by the permeable.
I would rather go with what Mark's saying is, we've gotta have 100-foot unencumbered by easements. That would make them maybe have to do
Well, that's the same.
an acre and a half,
It's
it's kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I think 100-foot unencumbered.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say.
So if I've got two that I wanna sell and one behind it, I'm really gonna have to make that thing, whatever we decide, or you all ultimately decide, where we decide's right. If we stay with the 50, then they're gonna have to make that first lot 150 foot wide.
Right, that's exactly what I was trying to say.
Let me kind of
I wasn't
rehash,
clear, I guess, but
let me rehash what I hear you saying, John and Mark. So let's say I have my place, and I'm gonna go behind my place and develop.
So like you're on the road, we're gonna say you're on the road.
Yeah, I got a road. So I have 100 feet. The way I hear it, I can't really use that 100 feet. I gotta come over here with 50 foot and run that as an easement. The person behind me has to have that 50 foot and the other 50 foot. Is that kind of what I hear them saying? That the easement and the road frontage might be together when you look at the driveway, but you still need 100 feet. And if you're gonna use any of the property and put an easement in, that shouldn't be your 100 feet of road frontage.
Correct.
I really only have 50 feet of road frontage because the other 50 feet's an easement. We want 100 foot, and any easement has to be 50, but it can't be 100 foot.
Correct.
Okay. Did we make that a point? Is that a point of clarification? Or do you guys want to do that when we
Yeah,
discuss
so
that?
they can change it any way they want to,
That's-
so.
That's my question.
well, I think it'd be better if it come from you guys, this
Okay.
board,
Right, this
As
is
a
recommendation,
suggestion.
okay.
and
So someone owns the land, they wanna sell it. Cause the seller has to grant the easement to retain for themselves.
Yes.
But the seller that's going to grant the easement is probably the person that owns the property behind them, so they're gonna benefit from it. So they're gonna be tickled to
Right.
death to be able to sell two more acres, 4 more acres, 10 more acres, because all they're gonna give up
Exactly,
is
and
the
they're
driveway, and
saying
they're
that
gonna
that
sell
would be,
lots of
that's
acres.
for the owner, that's, or the original master is saying, I've got authority to come on your property that I just sold you for purposes of this. That person, I'm pretty sure would maintain it, they can't interfere with it, but, and so I'm just wanting to make sure, so we want to say then it should be 100, or mandating a certain minimum? Or is that just up to the owner to decide how much of easement they want to have for,
Right now, we're at 50. I'm sure that is,
I mean, I guess you're saying
Land.
if we'd have to tell them, if you're planning on actually making yourself basically a subdivision without going through making a subdivision, you've got to make sure you have a road
that's,
or something that would meet county standards. Otherwise, you or the people buying from you are gonna be responsible for taking care of this, don't
Correct.
becoming.
Exactly. And that
But everybody needs to know
should have
that.
been understood all along.
I think
Well,
most
yeah, I think
anybody understands an easement that way,
Yeah.
pretty much, I think. Maybe not, but
This,
Well, yeah, I don't know if it would just,
If
yeah,
you take them 10 lots across the road here and somebody else owns the ground behind it, this guy just owns these 10 acres and he splits them 10 1-acre lots, 100 feet wide. Because my ground lays out perfect. Exactly 1,000 foot long. But my neighbor that owns that ground behind me, when I put my 10 lots up for sale,
you better be
I
buying one
don't,
of them.
he better be buying one of my lots.
That's,
if he can't get to his property because I sell my lots off and he didn't buy one of them, that's not my
Well,
problem.
You're saying somebody would
But
own
you
the
could put
interior, that doesn't,
somebody
You could
that
get-
can't afford it, but maybe have to sell their property because they couldn't afford that.
But he didn't have access to, it don't matter
You
if you
should-
sell
there's
that ground or
gotta be
not.
an
He
easement.
didn't
I
have
don't-
access before because you owned all the 10 acres.
Exactly.
I would say
Well, that's what I'm
if you
saying.
had 10 acres of road frontage,
100-foot unencumbered, problem solved.
I'd
That's what
say
I
if you had 10-foot road frontage, that you divide that up evenly up to the point where you've got 30 feet left that you're not selling. You just have to
Well-
sell bigger
that's what I'm
lots.
saying, if you're selling off, you need to retain your own easement so you can get to your interior property, but I
Exactly.
can't imagine that anybody
You're gonna
would
sell,
already
instead of
like have a
selling
land
10,
lot, that would make it
you're
already.
gonna sell 9.
Yeah.
One of them's gonna be
So
bigger
that's
with
not
an
like a
easement.
situation.
Right.
I think that's pretty, does that seem right to you, Mark?
That's exactly what I feel. I mean, I don't, and honestly, we're talking about easements. I don't even know if we should include the easements. I think that we should, whoever buys a lot in the rear should be paying for that ground. No easement at all. Because why is it fair to the guy who just bought 2 acres have to give up 50 foot of it that he can't even use?
Well, if it's not granted in
That-
the original thing, it can't, there's
that-
nothing to
that
do with
comes
that.
in
You
the-
have to-
No,
you
you
can't, I mean,
can't.
somebody could buy it, I mean, now,
Buyer
the person wants to
beware.
build behind could all buy
That's
it.
why I like 100-foot unencumbered.
100-foot unencumbered makes sense to me.
It does.
If we wanna stay with the 50 and be way overkill on the easements, I'm okay with that. If we wanna talk about knocking it down to 30 or something, I'm okay to discuss that. If anybody has any, I hadn't thought about what Mark said. I think 100-foot needs to be unencumbered.
I do too. I agree with that.
I'm pretty okay with the 100-foot, or with the 50-foot easement.
Let's,
I don't know. That's, county road's 20 foot and then you got 5 foot on each side. That's 30 foot. Well, that's a lot. I mean, if you needed that much, how'd you get there to begin with? Right?
Yeah,
I mean, if it's just your average homeowner traffic, you could probably lighten it up, but anybody's truck, you cannot turn off a county road down a 20-foot easement and not get in the ditch. It's
Sure.
like whether it's a farm truck, a log truck, a truck with trusses,
oh,
or a 30-foot camper for the homeowner to get into their garage,
I'm okay with
Well,
keeping the 50 and being.
I mean, 30 sounds
what
like
did
a
you say?
lot, but
What
if
is
you've ever
the-
drove anything over 30 foot long, it's not.
what's the
Well,
ordinance now
if
that
you're
you
running
cannot have
power,
road frontage?
you
The easement
own
has to
that
be how
20
much?
acres back there, you run
Well,
a
you have to
3-phase
take that
power
out. You
back
couldn't-
to
if you
it
don't have the
because you
50-foot
got
easement,
dryers or
you can't
whatever.
Build back
Right
there,
there's,
because you won't have any road frontage or the.
Well, that's another thing. Then you've got to give up
Yeah.
some of your easement, possibly to a utility easement, somebody
Yeah,
else.
I
The
don't
50
mind
might be the way to go.
Maybe the 50, yeah,
I don't-
because
I don't mind
if you're running the
50 foot.
semi back to the field, you get the crops.
And they run power poles down through there, and they may have a gas line going down through there. That might make sense.
That's true.
the only time we've had an easement question, and I don't know, it was 10, 15, the time doesn't matter. And what happened was, it was a common easement used by the community. The property owner erected a 4-board fence, which narrowed access. So just like what you described, and what you described, Matt, a guy tried to get off there with a hauling a piece of equipment and couldn't make it without taking out the fence post, because they ran it up to what they considered, see what I'm saying? Just, you can't swing way out and get in there without getting it into the ditch. Same place I live on Coffee Pot, you come down Van Cameron, that's a T road. Those semis try to make that turn, get off into the ditch. So if we made that a little bit wider, that easement at 50 foot, you might be able to maneuver. The other part of what I hear y'all say, and I'm gonna put it this way, the 100 foot is sacred. 50 foot is on to the 100 foot.
Well, I would.
If a person drawing it up, he can make, if he
25
was
on
selling
the
2 in the front, he can make them 125 foot wide, take 25 off of each one of them and make that the 50.
Well, that's what I'm saying, yeah, you could encumber two
We don't care.
adjoining properties to be 25 and 25,
We
and
don't
make
want-
50 altogether.
We don't want the original one below 100. We want 100 unencumbered. However they come up with that, I don't know that we care.
We don't.
If they do it 50, if they sell one lot that's 150 and the next one 100, or if they make two lots 125 and take 25 off of both of them, that may be more paperwork than needed.
I'm wondering if the common man has enough foresight to think that way. The people who are going to be granting these easements probably have an appreciable piece of property behind them. There's probably just not 1 acre back there.
Right.
There's probably grandpa's soybean field or hay field or something that people don't want 1 acre. They want 2 or 3 acres. And you can put 2 or 3 acres with a 50-foot easement and go 50 foot past that guy and put another 2 or 3 acre piece back there. Like you said, when you start thinking of all the scenarios that you're gonna have to deal with, it makes you just want to get up and walk out. There's just too much to think of. So I don't know what, I'm in a quandary, guys, I'll just tell you, and girls.
Like I
Well,
said,
I think part of our answer, Mark, in, it's kind of like when I coached football. You could sit there long enough and draw up and play. Somebody else would come up and show you how to beat it. So we gotta draw something up. I like the idea of 100 feet, unencumbered, and then let's just see how it goes from there. If you got something, you got a landlocked piece of property. Let's just say it's a pond right now, and you look at it and it's 20 acres, it's got a pond. You think, somebody ought to build a house there. You gotta figure out somewhere in this mess, beyond your driveway, so to speak, for a 50-foot easement to that piece of property.
At that point in time, they would have to go to the property owner and say, can I purchase an easement from you? Will you grant me an easement if I pay you a certain amount of money to do that? But it's encumbered, if someone owns property right now, 100 acres, and thinks they're going to develop it on there, when they sell a piece of property, they've got to say, I'm gonna take it, whether you do 25, on your property, I'm taking 25, and when I sell this next one, I'm taking 25, and it's gonna be back down here. Otherwise, you're not, you can't do anything.
And an easement is not a county road.
No,
Correct.
and like I said,
So
well,
that's what, I guess, we come to the seller
technically,
and buyers.
most county roads are easements. They're grants, but they're passed by the commissioners. A commission takes a county road to open it, takes the commissioners to open a county road. Generally, you live on Coffee Pot Curve, you probably own to the center of the road, and you pay taxes on it, but the county has 30 or 40 feet of right of way or something. So from the center of the road out, 20 feet is where the power poles are and the water lines and the gas lines. And you still own it, but you
So
let the county
exactly,
use it,
yes.
and that's technically an easement.
And that would.
But I'm just saying, you
all
can't
the
just,
interstates.
yeah, you can't blacktop a road and then call it a county road. It's a driveway that somebody's gonna have to maintain.
Now, the only
You can't
other,
just call it a road.
the only other easement that we had,
and there's a lot of these in the county now that are, I can think of half a dozen of them where they've done this through the years ago, and you turn down a gravel lane and there's house here, go back, there's a house on the left, go on back, there's a house on the right, go on back, there's one sitting in the back.
The
It's
gravel
still
road
on the
is
road.
usually pretty
It's-
pothole.
Yeah, but those are on those people's property,
Yeah.
and that's just their driveway.
the only other one we had was, and I would put it as access rather than easement, was they couldn't get it to a cemetery. Somewhere,
Okay, what?
cemetery.
Can I,
Oh,
let me ask you this, I mean, there's not gonna be one perfect answer to this. So why don't we just write it up as, you cannot landlock property from the rear, but you have to have at least 100-foot road frontage. But you can't sell it all off and landlocked. If their easement,
Well, yeah, well, I wouldn't think they would landlock
So-
themselves anyway, because that would be, again, that would be.
I think I think it'd be stupid, but
Yeah.
yeah, anyways. But why don't we just write it up like that? And then on, as far as you must keep 50 feet of road frontage for any access to the back of the property. And they'll have to come in to the board for anything to do like that. That way that way we're looking at each individual thing.
Well, I like that idea. I know that it's assumed, but let's put it in black and white that whenever you subdivide a piece of property, you cannot landlock that piece of property. But I would add, could we say, unless at the time of the subdivision, you establish a servient parcel with the 50-foot minimum access and utility easement already on it, in addition to the minimum lot requirements established by our ordinance. Which means you have that 50-foot access and utility easement in addition to the 100-foot minimum road frontage.
That's.
So you
what I
can't
think.
landlock, that's
Right.
item one. But number two is if you have a piece of property that can't have public road frontage access, you have to have a servient parcel that is subdivided at that time, which is the one division of land less than 5 acres.
Well,
Yeah, that's the stipulation that's tied to it.
or they couldn't
That's-
build on anything in there unless they've got at least a 50-foot easement,
Which,
because there's no road frontage.
exactly, so it already matches up with our
Yeah, that's
current
already, yeah,
ordinance.
this,
You're just changing the.
Right.
And Mark says, I didn't know, you can build 2 off of one easement now.
Currently.
And then if you want more, that's a minor subdivision.
That's a minor
different
subdivision.
process.
What's the time frame on that? Is that forever?
Right now. But that's what we're talking about too, right? Changing the splits to the 5 acres and
could they
I
exploit
just
that? Could
think-
you could just say, hey, I'm taking an easement for this first, these 2 here, and then I'm gonna sell these off, and I'm gonna take another easement,
2
and then I'm going to
residences.
do this.
2 residences, 1 easement. You can't,
Okay, so you can only do 2.
you can't, that's what it says now.
Texas.
That's what it says now.
And if they want something different, they have to come and get
An actual subdivision.
I just like Randy's suggestion. Let's put it in black and white that you can't do that. But then let's go ahead and put in there that unless you establish a serving parcel. That way, if they can't keep 50 foot tied to it, there's still gonna be access.
Yeah.
When, at the time of the split, it establishes access.
Yeah.
That's how Jackson County's, I think, pretty well reads, is you have to have minimum road frontage, but if it's not possible, at the time of the split, you have to establish the access easement
Yeah, they-
for an exempt subdivision.
Connor sent me something that said you have to have 1 acre, 150 feet wide. And then he said with 50 feet of access. Now, what in the world that means, I'm still scratching my head.
it sounds like
Maybe
It's
for
the same
emergency
thing as
vehicles
we're
and things like
doing.
that,
We
you need to
just
have,
say
to, I guess,
100
you know
foot
what I mean?
unencumbered.
I can't
Yes.
begin to imagine what
Because
that means.
then, there's gonna be a bunch of parcels that don't need access easements to the back of their properties. So, the 100 foot
Yeah.
unencumbered, it's unencumbered,
I
But
just want to make sure we don't get in the same problem where people end up making a subdivision without coming and asking for a subdivision. But I
Well,
think,
that-
but that the 2 hour, if there's a limit on the easements, then it should,
That should be plainly visible to Missy when she looks at whatever she's looking for.
Yeah.
If there's more than 2 residences on that easement, nope, no more building permits.
One other question, Mark, or Dee, can I just say, hey, that's an easement? Do I have to come in and register an easement in here? Or do I have to
usually,
identify
yeah,
it's from here to here?
There has to be a legal description for an easement, like there's a legal description for the 1 acre lot. It has to be laid out in plainly where it is, identifiable as per the US public land system, and recorded. It has to be written and recorded like any property transfer.
I sometimes, I will grant easements in a deed,
Mhm.
or retain an easement, I should say, not grant it. I will say, and I'm reserving an easement as long as it's recorded. And then there's some that are separate.
You can
But it
say-
was literally separate, so this is an easement, it didn't have to be recorded. Yeah.
You can say the
So-
eastern 50 feet of the above described property and call that an easement, or you can describe that 50 feet.
So what I'm getting at is what I hear y'all say. So all easements need to be recorded.
Yes,
All easements need to be a minimum of 50 feet. Any easement cannot be the 100-foot road frontage, cannot be part of that.
No.
The 100-foot can't be encumbered. So beyond that 100-foot, you gotta come up with another 50-foot as your easement. You gotta come down here and say, this is my easement for this piece of property
yeah,
and that piece of property.
and I think most developers kind of have that ingrained in them. They're not thinking about building this house that they're buying lumber for. They're thinking on down the road, what are they gonna do with the rest of that property? How are they gonna get to it? How are they gonna develop it? And most of them are pretty successful. And I think they probably think a lot more about it than we're trying to imagine everything right now, but I think they've outthought us a long time ago, or they wouldn't be successful in the business that they're in.
Well, that's the way it was with me 30 years ago, sitting here at the table. We was trying to figure out the loophole. That ended up, some of the problems we had and it just kept boiling down to this easement thing. And there was some reluctance at that time to even define the width of the easement. And you can see what it brought us. On the other side of the coin, as transportation director in this district, I argued with many parents when this problem, because they wanted us to run a bus to the house. I went out with the sheriff because I didn't know any better. And I'm looking at a piece of property and you could swim in the driveway, getting to it. And I was like, what's the deal? Unfortunately, that child and that parent failed to make a monthly payment. And in their contract, the property owner took the house back over. They paid diligently for 2 years, missed a month. They were essentially evicted over a piece of property. So, that's heartbreaking, but I kind of like the idea of maybe us sitting down, somebody put a motion together after further discussion. I'm not hurrying that. But I think we've got to memorialize that 100-foot unencumbered and 50 feet easement. Beyond that to other properties.
Okay, with the intention of doing that, because some people get easements for different reasons, just for, I want to be able to go down my side by side, so I'm going to ask for you, I'm selling you my property, but I want a 20-foot easement. Or, I guess I'm just on my deal.
Well,
I'm thinking it right now, but I'm just saying, I don't want to say if you're going to
back
grant
up.
an easement, you have to give 50 feet, or you have to request.
There could be an easement less than 50 feet for another use.
Right, but
But
just
if they,
saying for this,
but if
make
they
it
want to
clear.
build a house or two off of that,
Okay. yeah,
let's say that
okay.
sucker has to be 50 feet.
What if it's an existing easement that's been on the books for 50 years, 100 years? That's a rod. So it's 16 and a half foot. Is that person
I think we're out of luck.
not allowed to build because it's not 50 foot?
They've got their grandfather
Yeah.
did, wasn't it? It's done.
Well,
That's,
you still right now need the 50-foot easement to build off in landlocked.
Yeah,
You can't say you either have to have road frontage or a 50-foot, access to a 50-foot easement to get back there, so.
Well, if they have a rod easement, I think that's something where they come to the BZA and say,
Right,
this is what we have. Can we get a
Yeah,
variance to
yeah.
build back here? We have an easement, it's not of that width. Then I guess we look at it and go, okay, how are you gonna get your utilities back there? How wide does your driveway need to be? And go from there. I think we look at that a case by case.
and, obviously, some of those older pieces of property that were configured well before the zoning ordinance. I mean, we have those, we deal with those. and we just say, okay, that's the original configuration, we don't require really anything new, so to speak. You know, a house that's set there, it burns to the ground, somebody's gonna come in and clean it up and still use, you know, the same footers. We've gotta let them do that.
I think on that, like I said, if they say it's a rod, like you say, 16.5 feet, we may be able to grant them to build a house back there, but we can't make the person in front let a semi truck cut over their property. So they may have to hand stack their lumber on a pickup truck and drive it back there, but they can still build the house. You know? What I'm thinking. We can't make someone else give them more easement.
That's one of the things, it's a good idea to get along with your neighbor, ain't it?
But it's maybe absurd to keep them from building a home back there because we think they need to pull a semi truck in there and they go, we'll haul it all in on a pickup truck and build that thing, or we can do it on a flatbed truck and get back there everything we need, no problem. That's kind of what the BZA is for, though, I think. To look at that and go, okay, yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, and like you said, that could come on a case-by-case basis coming in here. If they wanted to get a variance on that.
So let's gather up what we want to send forward.
So I guess,
And
Gary, I'm just thinking, and again, haven't thought it all the way through or written it down, but what if we say, I would make a motion that after further discussion and consideration, we want to revise our ordinances that we have a 100-foot of unencumbered to build property. You need a 100 of unencumbered road frontage and minimum of 1 acre.
Okay.
Whether this is in the same motion or different, but also in addition, if an easement is necessary to build behind the property that does not have the 100-foot of unencumbered, it needs to be a 50-foot easement to access that property.
Okay, let me just throw this out, just because
Yeah.
it crossed my mind.
Yeah.
This guy buys 100, this guy buys 100, this guy buys 150. They're all 400 feet deep. This guy's is 300 feet deep.
Mhm.
But he can put another one behind it. Yeah, I don't know if that has anything to do with anything. That just crossed my mind.
Yeah, 100 foot times 425 feet or 0.6 gives you 1 acre. But Gary's right, if you had 100, or Mark's right, if you had 150 feet by 300 deep, that's basically 45,000, just over the 42.
Yeah.
560 for an
And
acre.
it doesn't have to be 300 feet deep. It can be whatever.
Yeah, we're just saying a minimum.
Yeah, but we don't have to make it be 150 by 300. As long as we get an acre,
Right.
then it's 150 divided into 43,560.
Mm-hmm.
That'll control your depth, and that'll be, 300 feet.
It may less than that, but what if someone bought 100 feet by 800 feet deep? That's okay. I mean, would we have a problem with that?
No, but he can't, he'll have to get an easement from somebody else because he only has 100 feet of frontage.
Well, he's only gonna build one house there.
Yeah. Oh, Albach and those guys made them 100 feet wide or 200 feet wide and a quarter mile deep and sold them on contract as fast as they could write the contracts up. But then that's how we got where we are now.
That's what we don't want.
Yeah. So, which isn't to say that if we don't do everything perfectly tonight, that we can't fix it again next year.
Exactly.
Right,
We see
yeah. We
problems
just see how it goes.
and
Yeah.
said, man, we didn't foresee this. Rather than waiting 20 years to address it, I think, 3 years from now, we could see a problem with what we're doing now and go, you know what? We didn't think of that. It could be
Right.
changed,
Proactive, is that what they call that?
maybe.
What Mark just brought up, let's say it was 100 by 800 and somebody bought that, but then 2 years, 10 years, whatever down the road, their son or daughter wanted to build behind them. they're not gonna be able to do that theoretically without and I know we could what if this thing 1,000 different ways.
They wouldn't be able to do it with today's standards, but today's standards or what we're proposing isn't what it's been for the last 30 years. So
But where I was headed with that was, if we're going with the mentality of, let's make incremental changes and we can change it as we want, what Mark started out with, I think is a very valid point, just aesthetically. If you were to, and we're thinking about everything in a square, that's not Scott County.
Right.
You got a lot of
Right.
hills, hollers, ditches. We haven't even thought about roads in the woods where you got 4-foot deep ditches and you got legal access, but what about your physical access? Where you can have 100-foot road frontage, but there's only a 10-foot area where you could literally get a culvert in or something like that. But I'm wondering if like 150 foot isn't a better fix as an incremental change. And then if that may suit our need very well, and then if it's not, do we want to go to 100 and then pull back to 150 or something, to where, what if we did 100 by 300? I think it looks better aesthetically, maybe lays the county out a little bit better, because you don't have those long, slender ones, but
150 by 300?
150 by an acre. It gives us
150 by
about
an acre, whatever it was. I just, as a what if, I'm not saying we have to do
I
that.
don't like it a bit. I was gonna just leave it alone. I mean,
Another reason I say that is, we have ordinances now that are not followed. They're not enforced, they're not
Oh, yeah.
followed,
We know.
with that, we can do all these what ifs and this for the future, but you're at bay of the person interpreting those and handing out the building permits. I would think this board would be better to have it simple. The simpler it is for that person interpreting it, there's no questions asked, versus, well, I didn't think about an easement, or I didn't do this, or what's unencumbered mean? I mean, we've talked about dominant, surveyed, unencumbered. I mean, how many people are buying those 1 acre lots with on contract from the developer, like understand those legal terminologies? I would think,
Yeah.
could we simplify this process where average Joe can understand it and maybe not get in that buyer beware?
Well, I think when we say it has to be 100-foot unencumbered, we stop that buyer from buying a 100-foot lot that has an easement on the side of it, because it has, when they look at the deed or whatever to issue a building permit, if it has an easement across that 100-foot, you can't do it.
The problem with that is though, and this is speculation, I could be wrong, I would assume a lot of the older properties that have issues with that were owner financed, and in that, there's not a bank involved and there's not title involved. So they may have bought that property,
Yeah.
could buy that property with an easement, and they have no clue. Yes, it was on their contract, but it's the same contract that says you can't park cars in the yard, you can't do this, you can't do that, and all that stuff happens because there's not enforcement.
well, they're still recorded. I mean, if you do your due diligence, you're still gonna find that,
I'm just
I don't
saying,
know how
that
you protect against that, though.
you maybe don't, but I think the simpler you can make it, the better off you might be.
Well, if you do one acre, 100-foot wide with no encumbrance, or you do 1 acre with 150-foot wide with no encumbrance, you ain't changed nothing.
You could take.
Well, you could just make it 150 and just leave out the encumbrance. Is that what you're just meaning?
I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting it, I'm throwing
Yeah,
it
like
out
out
there as.
Just
a-
saying it's 150 road frontage and there's nothing about encumbrances, because
The
then
only-
they could have their, there, and then it may get to the 100.
The only heartburn I have is if we do the 150, again, I'm looking at it this way. I think there's some forethought, 150, I've got everything covered. Whereas if we say 100 unencumbered, then all of a sudden, wait a minute, now I want to expand back here. I got to think, where am I going to put the easement in? How's this going to look? I think it adds to the idea of someone being a little bit more critical, a little bit more planning ahead at whatever point, might be 20 years after they buy it. But if we tell them you're fine, you go ahead, you got 150. I'm not sure. I think that if we did 100 unencumbered and with a 50-foot easement, if I'm sitting there thinking ahead, I want 150 feet right here. But if I don't, I just buy it and it's 150 feet, I've lucked in, but if it's 100 feet, now I've got to sit down here and plan ahead a little bit. Either come to the BZA and say, hey, I need to knock this off, or I gotta come over here and do an easement, separate of this. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess you're saying if you, in that situation, that someone, son grows up and what you decide, hey, you wanna do this, only 100, they could maybe come in and
I
just
like
say.
100 unencumbered.
I do too,
Unencumbered,
and
but if
here's
they could-
why. It's, I'm sorry, Carl, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, they could come in maybe for a variance and saying, well, we wanna build behind here, can we do a 20-foot easement, they'll only be 80 now, and explain it, I guess we could give them a variance on that.
If you change from 100 to 150, you're changing the way a person can lay out their property if they want to put a garage. You know, if I want to put a garage, my property's 100 foot, that means, and I've got an acre, that means now my depth is back there further, and I can put my garage close, you know, away from the road even further. It gives me room to do that. If I go to 150, then it's going to dictate how long my garage can be or how wide my garage can be. More. And I mean, for me, the American dream is to have a house and a garage. I know I'm a guy. And I would probably live in my garage if that was the
I'm like
case.
45, 60.
Another thing we should think of too is think of, say you got 1,000 foot of road frontage, 100 feet unencumbered with no parcel behind it that's gonna be developed. You could get 10 houses there. You move to 150 unencumbered as a catch-all in case of, easement does need in the future. Now you're talking 7 houses can be developed there for the same footprint of 1,000 feet, 10 acres.
But can think of very few situations where somebody owns 1,000 feet of road frontage and it's only 400 feet deep.
I agree with you.
If
Most
you-
properties are-
If you go with 150, if you go with 100 feet, you don't have any possibility to recover. If you buy 8 acres, 150 feet wide, you can put a couple of your kids behind you. If you buy 2 acres, 100 feet wide, you're sunk. You ain't buying that. 100 feet wide, 8 acres,
Right, yeah.
you're done. No room for change, no time to say, maybe I should have bought 150 feet. And if you want your garage, not trying to be wise, Randy, but if you want your garage farther away from your house, buy another half acre.
Well, I mean, that could go the other way too. I mean, because, and I'm not trying to be wise either, but if you got 800 feet of property behind you and you want your kids to, live back there, that just means that you're going to let them use your driveway. It's not really going to be
Shouldn't be.
Nope.
an easement because I own my property and I'm giving my kids
Well, they're
access.
selling it.
That's the
I
way,
think they think
that's
they're
the way
selling
you would
it.
think it would be, but
That means you cannot sell your property ever.
if the ordinance says that you have to have 100 feet of frontage to get a building permit, and your house sets on the 100 feet of frontage, forget about that other 700 feet, that's a hayfield.
Yeah, because you have.
Because you
right
can't
now,
get a
the
building
ordinance
permit,
says it
because you don't have an
50
easement.
foot
Well, that's true. That's true.
Kind
I
of
mean,
back
it's saying you
to,
can come in before, or
kind of back to my
say, hey, we
motion.
just want to do 20 foot, you can go back.
Make your motion,
Ask
yeah.
for the variance on that, we might say, yeah. let's-
Whenever I was doing that, I was thinking also of Matt, I'm thinking unencumbered. So when I look up Google definition unencumbered, Oxford Dictionary says not having any burden or impediment. So I kind of think unencumbered would still be okay. And if somebody's like, what is that? Okay, pull your phone out or here, I'll tell you what it means. So again, whether I boogered up my motion before, but I'm gonna go with the motion. Again, after further consideration and discussion, revise our ordinances from the 2 acre, 200 foot frontage to 100 feet of unencumbered property and a minimum of 1 acre to build.
I will second that.
I'll
Again,
vote that.
Okay.
do we put the easement in that same motion or you want it separate?
I want it separate.
Okay.
If we're gonna do these.
Can we even do that? Because there's a motion with the commissioners now that was already presented to them to something different.
Well,
Well, yeah, I
We
mean,
have
we
it-
can amend
we have
it and they
discussed
can change it anyway. They can change it however they
Well,
want
Y'all
to.
didn't
that
have
is
it.
what we sent to the commissioners.
But without the unencumbered.
Unencumbered.
We,
we haven't
We
talked
didn't
about
have
it.
the unencumbered there.
Yeah, they haven't
we,
talked.
let me
The
hold right
next
there.
part is, I think our 50-foot easement thing is already covered under what we have now.
Yeah,
You gotta
it
have a
already is,
50-foot easement,
Or road
and-
frontage, either.
and
We
you
don't need to change it.
But
You
if
don't
we
need
do
to
the
change it,
100
and you could build 2 houses off of that easement. But no more. If you want more than that, if you're running a 50-foot easement back and you've got 50 acres back there that you want to make 10 houses on, it's a minor subdivision.
Right.
That's what you gotta
Let
come
me, let me jump in here. We have a motion and we have a second to, follow up with what we passed the last time. Looking at everything, we are not changing our 1 acre. We are not changing our 100-foot road frontage. What we are changing is the terminology that we put, which is 100-foot unencumbered road frontage. We have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion needed?
So in that scenario where it says unencumbered, that would be unencumbered today. But what about the future? Like, so they would have to be a BZA involvement if that guy wanted to 800-foot, wanted to sell or gift something to a child. Because more than likely they're gonna have a setback restriction or a setback variance as well because they built their garage or whatever. 100 foot's not very wide if you've got anything behind it.
which is
Correct, you would
not
have
throw
to get that, because if you would grant a 50-foot easement or get it this, then you don't have 100, you'd be out of compliance, so.
Not to throw a wrench in this, but right now, we've got it where you cannot split your property 3 ways, right? And that's been going on for 20 years. So why can't we just say, you gotta have 100-foot unencumbered, and if you buy 800-foot deep property, you're not splitting.
Right.
Yeah, but there could be the scenario in the future, 10 years down the road. So that guy built his house and his garage and all that, and lo and behold, he's built it over to one side. He can give a 50-foot easement back to his kids. It could, I mean,
But that's another BZA.
that's another BZA
Yeah,
coming in and says,
BZA.
yeah, I'm at 100, but I've got 50 unencumbered. It just so happens down this side, there's no septic field. My buildings are all over here. My buildings will be 10 foot off of that easement. That would be an exception to the rule. We look at it and go, well, yeah,
Sounds right.
I think you could do it.
Yeah, you could ask for a variance on that.
I
But if
But
you're
I'm
gonna
not
like
like you, I
that
wanted
10
to just
foot
leave it
off,
alone, and just say it's 100
your house would
foot or
have
the
to be a
50-foot
minimum
easement,
of
and
40
that's
foot
what you
wide.
have to have,
10 foot
period.
off the property.
Don't be building on
Yes,
anything
on
else
one
that you come and get a variance.
It would be unlikely.
Don't say
But I think what we're gonna see is in the future, I think there's gonna be somebody that has 123 feet of road frontage. And they built a house on it,
Yeah,
and they can grant a 40-foot easement back there without encumbering anything to get to that other 4 acres back there. And we go, well, yeah, it doesn't fit the rule exactly, but you look at it and go, it makes sense.
exactly.
Right,
It'll
yeah.
work.
Because there's no way we're gonna sit here and plan it out and
Exactly.
make a
That
perfect
is
layout,
right.
because you don't know what the weather's gonna be in the future. How much rain are we receiving? What's the drainage board gonna say? Where's the creeks at? But
I think it's a good place to start, and anything outside of that probably needs to come to the BZA and let somebody look at it and say that, no, that won't work.
And also the drainage board.
And also, well, the drainage board don't get to look at it though.
Well, I'm saying, maybe
If
we
someone
need to
come-
put that in the description.
If someone comes in for a minor subdivision or a major, I think the drainage board gets a say, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think on
But you're
these,
starting to develop, so I'm just going back to that 800.
Right.
If you're starting to develop a bunch of houses back behind on 100 by 800, I think the drainage board ought to be involved.
We
Yeah,
got
that's
a
why I
motion.
don't want to get.
But 800
Somebody be able to.
it's only 800 foot deep. To keep their acres, they're only gonna build one back there.
Yeah.
It's only one.
We have a motion, we have a second. What I want to do is run through, we'll do a roll call. To answer yes means that we're going to add the term unencumbered. There is nothing in this motion that talks about easement. It's just the word unencumbered added to what we have. That's a motion, we have a second.
You have a
On
second.
John, so
So I'm prepared to vote on this. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Like again, the answer is yes. We go, no, it's not. Where's my list?
Could be here.
Yeah,
I changed that on one part.
Oh, yeah.
It says to center.
okay. I'm just gonna go first. I answer yes. Mr. Julian?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Gardner?
No.
No. Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Oberles?
I voted yes last time, but I'm going no for now as well.
Okay. Mr. White?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Boswell?
Yes.
Mr. Springston?
yes.
Yes. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yes and 2 no. We need a minimum of 5, so that does pass. Okay. Do we need to, I put that on this one.
So again, Gary, then back to the easements, and I again apologize, wasn't here on the 14th, but, or I think, anyway, so easements presently, we do say that you need to have a 50-foot easement and only 2 splits are allowed, or parcels to build off of that current
And
easement.
that's how it is now, right?
Two residences per 50-foot
I
easement
mean, it
is
says
the
that
language.
now.
Yes.
So we don't.
So we need to
change
mess with that at all.
Do we need to include that?
I'm sorry?
We don't need to mess with that. It's already there. You either have to have road frontage or a 50-foot,
Yes.
access to a 50-foot easement.
I think we need to think something about easements, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said it already is. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, there
We
is, yeah, okay, yeah,
Okay.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm
So
not-
I mean, that's, yeah, you have to
There is
build on
already
anything, you
existing.
either have to have road
Since we're
frontage or
pushing
50.
this forward, should we not put something in there that you can not landlock property behind you? We don't have to talk about easements.
Well, doesn't that kind of take care of it when you say you have to have road frontage or access to a 50-foot
Not
easement?
if you
No.
have 400 feet of property, you break it up into 100 feet.
I don't think that you can tell people what property they can or cannot sell.
Yeah,
If somebody buys something that doesn't comply with the current ordinances, they've simply made a mistake. I don't, someone who I consider very educated in this matter once told me that you can sell anything you want to. You may not be able to do whatever you want to do with it once you've bought it, but you can buy or sell any piece of property that you want to. And I cannot qualify that. I can just say, now that might even be hearsay.
Well,
well, that's, yeah,
here's
that's
what
true. I
pops
mean,
in my mind.
it's a buyer beware.
I have a friend who, for whatever purpose, inherited a piece of property. The family is all friendly, was. Okay. Access to this pond, probably could build a house, maybe not. Through their previous family members, wasn't a problem. Now it's gotten a little bit ink. So in essence, what started out as a friendly, yeah, just take the driveway out, now is becoming an issue. So it kind of goes back to what Mark said. You know, if I'm sitting here looking at a piece of property, gosh, I'd really like to have that pond. I gotta have the wherewithal to get something legally recorded. So I come to you and say, hey, I'd like to have that 4-acre pond back there, but you're gonna have to give me an easement also. That would be the thing to do. Now, if I just buy it, that's my fault. It's kind of like a
Right,
buyer.
You can own it, you just can't get to it, and you can't get a building permit.
Yeah.
I bought a horse that bumped me off, damn, that's on me. You know, I should have looked at it a little closer.
Well, I guess if you're gonna buy the property back there in the back, you're gonna have to buy the property, one of the acres up front from somebody. I just asked.
Well, yeah, unless that person who next to you says, yeah, I'll grant you an easement, I'm gonna charge you $10,000 for it, but sure, I'll grant you an easement and
Yeah.
we'll get it recorded.
Once we send this through, there's going to be a open meeting, right? Community meeting. And the commissioners are gonna have to rule. There may be some somebody may have a brilliant idea of things that we haven't even thought of.
Right, oh, yeah,
So-
absolutely.
Instead of sitting here till midnight, let's go ahead and get something on paper, and if somebody has an epiphany during the commissioners meeting, they may solve all our problems for us.
Yeah.
Well, I think also too, I've got a little bit of feelings to what you're saying, that you can't, I'm not gonna use this example. I had a friend who sold horses, down in Mississippi. He was a minister. I would never buy a horse off of him. Okay. Well, you bought it, it's on you, you should have known. So part of me says, do we need to give folks fair warning in some form or fashion, or a disclaimer onto our documentation saying, all property configurations, you know what I'm saying? Is it there? Do we have something already stating that?
In that thing that I brought, I don't have a copy of this thing, in that thing that I brought, it's specified out there, even though you can divide it, you know, Clark
Yeah.
County was making no guarantees that you could, get
Right.
building permits or whatever on it.
Right.
It said that in the paper, and maybe it should pass through just like that. We're not guaranteeing
Right,
you,
yeah.
you can split it, it doesn't mean you can build a house on it.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, it's the same thing. Somebody could sell somebody a piece of property and say, oh yeah, you can build a business there, you can build a factory there, no problem. We can't stop people from telling people that.
It said,
And
the verbiage says, lots created under this provision are not guaranteed to be buildable or guaranteed to qualify for issuance of a ILP, which was some form of a building permit.
I think we changed that wording to building permit, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, so, all right, yeah.
Yeah, we gotta make sure that's.
But yeah,
I
that's what I'm
think that's
saying,
a
is
pretty
you
good
don't,
disclaimer that says.
if you wanna go out by the pond, you should know that you can't build there unless you have
But there's people
frontage
that
or
want
a
to,
50-foot easement, so.
there's people that want to buy a piece of property only to hunt on or to camp on or whatever. So that's perfectly fine by them that it could be on the side of a slate mountain that no way you can put any kind of a septic on. It's solid slate or something.
They still need to get an easement to walk over there though,
But
whether
they,
you're building on it or
but they
not.
want to buy 10 acres from that person because they want it for just recreation, hunting mushrooms, whatever they like to do. I mean, that's okay.
Okay, you talked about,
Yeah, okay.
anything else? I do have one more.
Yeah, if you say anything else, like topics, I know we have 8 of us, but it's a 9-member board, so I guess that still encourage commissioners to figure out who that 9th person needs to be and get them appointed to where we can have.
Thanks, because honestly, I forgot all about it.
Do we just need to make a request for
That
that
could
to
have
be
been
on
the
the
person
agenda?
that solved this 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I do have one more item. I know it's not on the agenda. Folks, this document kind of downloaded today, and it's on solar farms. This is from Purdue, talks about some of the state's legislation, some of the analysis of the counties, and how they, like, one county has solar farms being a special use variance off of an agriculture. Somebody else has a solar farm being a business. Some of them will tell you your solar array has to be 36 inches above the ground and has to have this type of ground, just can't grow weeds. It's gotta have a ground covering. If you have a non-participating home, then it has to have a buffer between the solar array and the non-participating home. The solar array can't reflect into, we have nothing. We have nothing when it kind of talks about solar farms. I know they're pushing pretty hard in Clark County. I don't know when somebody's gonna knock on the door, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what we tell them.
Didn't they pass their ordinance down there? They got at least a year memoriam or whatever the. Moratorium, there you go. And I think Washington County even made it more than a year.
That's, and I don't even know what we tell them. If somebody comes knocking on the door and says, hey, I want to put a solar farm, I got 50. Let's just use the place the other day that we turned down there where the pond is at. Somebody wants to put a solar farm there, that was only 16 acres. Would we allow?
16 acres wouldn't be a very big solar farm.
No, it
Yeah.
wouldn't.
But you're right.
I mean,
You have
Is
something.
that right? 30 acres is what they, about minimum before you really start making any money.
Yeah, well, definition, when you're gonna make money, is maybe debatable or not having.
and then a part of this also, we're looking at this.
I get what you're saying on that.
Yeah.
What happens when it's all done? What reclamation do you have to have? Do you come in and bulldoze all the array down? Do you do this? Do you do that? Ground covering, buffering? I mean, it's, commercial regulations. It talks about the number of feet off the highway. I don't know.
I tell you,
Go for it.
just a thought, if when we start making these rules, if somebody's gonna have a solar farm, I'd like to see Scott County adopt an ordinance or something in there that says, you've gotta be so far back from your property and you've gotta have a tree screen.
Could have a what?
A tree screen.
Yeah.
Some type of tree screen. Just because of is exactly what you said. You don't want somebody to put a solar farm right behind somebody's house that the rays bouncing off in
Right.
the panels and ruining your site, on your house.
Did it say something in there? Yeah.
Mark, who do you have to ask for permission to put your solar panels up?
I think it's
Nobody knew anything about it. My insurance agent said, well, I don't know whether we cover them or not. So I didn't ask anybody and, well, I did. Yeah, I did. I think I did say something to City Hall and got a, what?
And how long's your solar panels been there?
8 or 10 years.
That's what I thought. And you,
Well,
you ain't melted your neighbor's house down yet, was my point.
Not yet.
So
And I
wonder-
think also too, and again, I keep thinking about the people out there in New Washington, kind of fought this solar farm hard.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's gonna end up coming this way or not. I kind of felt like on the tail hook of what we were talking about here with kind of being burned 30 years ago with ordinances of easement, that we need to have something in place.
I think we need to have something in place. Yes. And
And well, yeah,
And this is only my opinion. My opinion is, I don't see how we can stop people from putting solar panels on their property. I know a lot of people here that likes to come in and say, no, no, no. Guys,
Yeah, well,
you're ruining generational wealth. I mean, if I've got 300 acres, my kids don't want to farm it, and let's face it, 300 acres, you can't raise a family anymore on 300 acres. Why should my kids not be able to put solar panels on my 300 acres and earn money that helps their family?
Is there some consideration about precedence? Who has the solar fields up and down the interstate? Is that utility companies? Is that Clark County REMC? And
Well, Scott County has one, right?
Scottsburg,
is it Scottsburg?
just one
I
south.
know Austin just put
Yeah.
one in.
And then Clark's is down just over the line into Clark County.
Yeah.
Is Clark County already?
So that's another reason.
one of the ones I've
If we're-
seen.
We can't say that Scott County can do it and Austin can do it, or Scottsburg can do it and Austin can do it, but you can't do it. I ain't fair.
The ones we've had in Jefferson County, and things like that it's been companies that are going to build, they're buying the land to build the
Right.
solar farms, so they're selling it back to, like in that one, Decatur County, was one, that company was gonna sell their solar to them. So it was a company, I think that's what had the big issues, is that people were coming in and buying the land. They use it for 30 years and then they do all the cleanup, so it's not like an individual necessarily doing it.
Right,
They
right.
would have to sell or once they rent, I guess it's actually leasing it.
Some places buy the ground, some people
Yeah.
lease the ground, some people pay dividend or pay.
Because they only last, they don't last forever. Like I said, I think it's a 30-year usually, and then they have to be torn down and they do whatever they do. I would just say, I guess it's something you may want to gauge, because if you put in
Can we all,
all of the parameters and they grant, then you're probably kind of stuck with saying, hey, you did this and
can we look around and see what maybe some other counties are doing? And it don't even have to be in this state.
Yeah.
Let's see what some people are doing on them that makes sense. I don't wanna limit the value of someone's ground if they don't wanna farm it anymore.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and they're ready to retire and somebody wants to give them good money for it, solar. Who am I to say no, but I don't want, or who are we to say no, but we don't want people coming in and raping and pillaging the whole county with it.
Well, if we say that they can't do that, don't we have to have some reason that they can't do
Right.
that? Not just because we don't
Because we
like
don't
the way
like
they
it.
part their hair or.
There needs to be some rules about it. Maybe it has to be set back so far.
And
And
won't
I
there
say
be
trees,
some-
but I just mean some type of rocks and screens. I
I think that's what we're looking at. I don't want to stop anybody from being able to sell that ground to them. If those
Well,
people want to buy it and it makes sense for them to give them X number of dollars for it, that's the value of the land.
So does, I don't know if Missy has how much time to research, or Gary started it, how much time that can we?
I've got this thing from Purdue.
I didn't
That
get
sounds
that
pretty
far down the weeds on that.
Let me hand this to you.
Clark counties. What,
Are
did
they
you read Clark counties?
copies or
I
just
couldn't
one?
find it.
That's just one.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so.
I
It mentioned something about it, but I didn't get it clear what it was.
I might
I'll look
be-
at it again and see.
And that's where a comprehensive plan would probably come in handy, an updated one. Guidelines of where you might want it.
Right.
Solar farm, so we're just saying willy-nilly,
Right.
whatever.
Well,
But
I think that it's
I don't
true
like that.
that when you look at it, a lot of family farms.
I don't like us sitting here and here going, this would be a great spot for it, this would be a great spot for it, this would be a great spot for it. And then the people that build them show up and go, man, we would like to be right there. That's the spot we want. We want to buy that property from them people and they want to sell it to us. And they go, well, it's outside of our comprehensive plan. We really
Well, I
should.
don't say you have to say specifically, but just that we want to,
What is allowed?
a percentage of the county or whatever, we don't want it so it's not overrun. I mean, just kind of, so we'll go along with the comprehensive plan.
And some of
People
this
will
is gonna
fight
be
the solar
dictated,
farm.
right? Because look, if you've got, let's say, 40 acres and you want to put solar panels on, that's great. They're not going to put solar panels on 40 acres unless you've got a substation real close, because it costs too much money to do that.
To get the proper priority. So that's going to take care of, a lot of it's going to take care of itself. And probably, I doubt there's the money out there right now for solar projects that there was
No.
in the last few years. It'll probably come back. But if it is viable and it's what we need in the future,
Yeah.
it'll happen.
So I'd encourage maybe whether whoever has some time or look up things like Gary's printed, but maybe as our September meeting, if we don't necessarily have a, a case to come before us or something, maybe we can have some discussion in September.
I'm happy with that. I just,
Have something in place when
since,
it's first.
since we're
so-
looking at making
come.
modifications, this one's kind of
Yeah.
stayed with me. I've worked up until my back issue in Clark County. You get out and talk to any of those folks down there, especially in the New Washington area. I mean, it was,
You see the signs, it's no solar.
there was some setup, people's brains were locked in. I don't want that. Almost to the point of being mad, but then you sit down and look at it. In some cases, that's the only option people have to make any money off their property.
Mhm.
And what if somebody started a campaign, no soybeans, because they spray Roundup, no soybeans? I mean, I don't like no campaigns.
Connotation of that.
You want me to keep it?
What's that?
Would you want me to keep it?
Yeah, just look through that.
You have copies.
Yeah.
Or-
I've got some.
I'll mow.
I'll see if I can figure out some way to attach it to the email.
Okay.
I think Carla does have a real valid point there, like strategically, it may be worth thinking through that comprehensive plan a little bit. From the standpoint of, there's development, like certain parts of the county are gonna be industrial. And certain parts are more likely gonna trend towards residential improvements. And when you think about solar, it might be more fitted in an area where it's gonna be industrialized more than what the residential, just by your population densities and then you specifically mentioned solar, but maybe we need to expand that a little bit to just green energy or regenerative type, whether it be
Yes.
Yeah.
whether it be solar, wind, nuclear. I mean, probably not gonna have any hydro, but I think if we're gonna open that can of worms, let's think about it bigger picture.
I had a cousin that lived in Lafayette back in the days when they put the first
When turbines.
wind. And there was a caveat, there was a lot of conversation because the ground harmonics. People were very fearful that their foundations would be cracked. And somehow, some way, someone said if there was a building on your property within so many feet of where we're gonna put in this windmill, can't build. So people were going to Lowe's and buying those little buildings and putting them on their property to where, okay, wait a minute, you can't have it within 1,000 feet. This is my building, so it can't be here. They were doing that to keep the windmills kind of off because of the fear of that cracking. So I agree with you. I think if we get out of the boat, we probably need to talk about all this. And I do like the idea that, maybe it's not absolute, but here's a targeted area, do we want a solar array out by Hardy Lake? Let's say by the airport is, we see what that is. Would we want that out in the field by Hardy Lake?
Or something, so it would just say it would benefit or whatever. you do.
Like Matt says, I think we do need to address it all, but everything's gonna be different, right? Because you ain't gonna wanna, whatever you got for a solar field, sure ain't gonna fit nuclear.
Right.
These, what do they call them? Pods or what?
Reactors, reactors.
Well, they've got some real small
Small.
nuclear power plants now, and I don't know anything about it. I mean,
Well, I know we got, many, many years ago, there was probably the most contentious BZA meeting we had it at Scottsburg High School. I don't know, 200-300 people there. And I had guys ready to kick my ass. I took him at his word, I was gonna make my move. So that was back before I was in this. But, God bless, we went on and on and on. And what it was a, down past the, dirty packaging.
Yeah.
They were gonna put in a wood burning,
I remember that.
Right.
and what ended up,
Biomass.
plant, what ended up being the biggest problem is the, height of the building they wanted was jeopardized the airport.
Mhm.
They're still, I mean, we approved it, and then went back, and when they wanted to modify the height of the tower, they said no. But we approved it, it's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Then a month later, we started realizing, wait a minute, everything in town's supposedly gonna be covered with ash. You could, no matter where you're at, it's gonna smell like you're cooking out, allergies. We started getting a lot of that information. And we didn't allow them to do the additional height on the building. And they abandoned they were no longer welcome. And they felt that, they didn't build.
Did we ever approve the minutes?
No,
Yeah, I think we're going to, when we're gonna wait for those to be, do we make an amendment to them and then send them out and do it?
let's do that. Why don't we make an amendment, includes today's amendment to that, and then we'll adopt it the next time.
Okay.
All right.
So you're combining 2 months meetings into one.
Yes.
We'll make that,
Wouldn't we approve July's minutes and then approve August, since it was 2 separate meetings?
I'm fine with that. I'll take a motion to approve July's minutes.
Read the last line on July's, because one thing we've not talked about, it said we had a brief, where's the minutes at?
I don't have,
Oh, yes. I mean, if we made up amendments, if you guys are okay with it, I guess we could approve them as amended, but there's just,
I mean, typically you're gonna approve one meeting as a standalone meeting, not combine 2 into 1.
right. The only thing that we have is, again, is 55 foot from the road. And the amendment we had to that was the addition of the word center.
What's the very last
and
line?
then we also need to say that we actually did vote on
Briefly
the,
discuss splits of parcels. We'll
but we did
discuss
agree
more in
that.
August meeting.
But didn't we vote to take that to the
We did.
commissioners
We
last
did,
time?
yeah, so that needs to be amended on that, is that?
Do we have that written up yet to be presented to the commissioners?
No, not the splits. That's all I have to, I'm going to type that up, probably go to the next meeting so that then they can add that on for their first September meeting to vote on all of it. I hope, they may need extra time on that, but
Is it reasonable for the board to request to get those like a week prior to the commissioners?
yeah, I thought that I had sent that memo and I didn't realize that you guys didn't get it, so, it wasn't a week before though, but yeah,
It's been our general rule for us to get the minutes, let's say, what is today, August? So sometime a week prior to our meeting in September, we will have the August minutes so we can all read them and come to the meeting with any additions or subtractions.
and you have the
That's it.
agenda. Did we usually get, did she send us the agenda too?
And then normally if there's something in front of the BZA, we get the agenda, and if there's something, we get all the paperwork associated with that. So, going back to your request, do we want to go ahead and approve July's minutes? I'll take a motion with one addendum to that, and that's the word center of the road.
I'll make that motion.
Don't we need to amend them to also say that we voted to, it says we discussed it, but we voted on the split?
Yeah. It would need to- That would need to be amended as well.
They voted.
Okay, we have two amendments. One of those is to the center of the road, and the other one is we voted to approve the splits and the 1 acre. I need a motion for that.
I move to approve
I
the,
have moved
with amendments.
I'll make a motion.
with amendments.
Yes.
Okay, with those amendments, I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Okay.
So next month's meetings will say that we have added and voted to add the word unencumbered to the 100-foot road frontage.
Correct.
That'll be next month's,
And that's what we voted on.
that's what we voted on tonight. So tonight's minutes will say that that's what we done.
And discussed the easements, but no action was taken.
But no action was taken. And discussed looking at discussion of solar alternative energy
Guidelines.
ordinances, guidelines for the county. That pretty much covers it, doesn't it?
Yeah, good.
Without further discussion, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have moved, I have a second.
Second.
I have a second from John. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. It is, we got 10 till 8.
7:50.
Carla, when do you have the split? I've had people ask me about that, and I thought it was going to commissioners last time.